probably tomorrow. But okay, so let's begin. We are on page 63b, and we have been learning. The Gemara was talking about a pasuk in the book of Dvarim, Haskes Ushma Yisrael, and we were expounding on the word Haskes. What does the word Haskes mean? Has means silence generally, kat is generally means a little group, or it means a group. So
if it's a religious,
or it could mean a sect. Okay, could mean a sect. The kat, right. It's used in Gemara as sometimes it refers to witnesses. There's a kat of Adam, a group of witnesses. And in Has, where do we have Has? In the Torah, it says the word Has. By Yahas Kalev, right? It says in the Torah that Kalev quieted all the other spies that checked out the land of Israel. Kalev quieted them down. He silenced them by Yahas Kalev. So we have the word Has in the Torah and the word Kat. So basically, Haskes, the Gemara has different interpretations over here, what exactly Haskes is referring to. And in addition to the word Haskes, the Gemara had expounded on some other psukim about Vayidaba Hashem al Moshe panim al panim, that the Gemara is basically telling us the different speeches that these rabbis gave when they came to Yavne, when they came to the famous yeshiva in Yavne, and came to the famous city of Yavne, I should say, that was spared by the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. And the drasha about panim al panim, that Hashem told Moshe, let's study together with a kind countenance. And then the Gemara gave another explanation that you should show a kind countenance to Klal Yisrael by returning your tent to the midst of the Jewish people. And the Gemara mentioned about Yoshua taking over. The Gemara mentioned about this Haskes that we mentioned, that Haskes. The Gemara explains, emphasizes that
how you did it. Thanks.
The Gemara emphasizes that Haskes. The first drasha about Haskes is not really expounding on Haskes. It's really expounding on Hayoim Hazeh Niyesa La'am. Really, it's expounding on the fact that it says today you became a nation. And when did the Jewish people really become a nation? The Jewish people really became a nation. It was finalized at the giving of the Torah. Let me mute everyone here so it'll be easier to hear. It was really finalized at the giving of the Torah. It started when we left Egypt. Now, the Gemara finds it surprising that it would say 40 years later, after the giving of the Torah, 40 years later, it says, now you became a nation. Now, what about the last 40 years? My answer is that it's supposed to be cherished by us like it's the day that the Torah was given at Har Sinai. It gives a proof about how a person feels if they miss Kriya Shema one night of Kriya Shema. Then the Gemara expounds on the word Haskes, where it says you should learn in a group. Learning in a group is much better than learning alone. And this is Gemara expounds on this with giving a few problems with learning alone. That number one, it's wrong. It says Cherev El Habadim. There's a verse that says deserve to have a sword. People who learn alone deserve that there should, basically that a sword should be on their neck. The Gemara then says they become foolish, and the Gemara also says they sin. And the Gemara brings proofs that there's places in the Chumash where it implies, where you could expound that it comes out that that's what the Gemara, that what the verses mean is that a person should not learn alone. Then the Gemara talks about this, that haskes, from another perspective. What does the word haskes mean? You should crush yourself al divrei Torah, because the only way Torah will be absorbed by you is if you pain yourself and don't indulge. The more you indulge in pleasures, the less you can absorb Torah. Torah won't be able to be absorbed in you because you're too involved in physical pleasures. And that's what haskes means. It means has means do, make yourself kitsu, crushed, make yourself crushed, that you should not be indulging in other areas. Now, I did see a commentary that explains that has, the letter hey and the letter ayin, are called guttural letters, and the letter sin is called in a samach is called a sibilant, and because of that, those letters are interchangeable. Certain letters in the Hebrew alphabet, if they come from the same source, they're interchangeable, and because of that, the Gemara can darshan the word has as if it says ayin sin, as if it says do or make or create, and kit and the word kat, the Gemara is expounding on to mean to crush, because chaf and tough together, kaises, it means to grind. So it means to grind yourself for divrei Torah. And the Gemara brings a source that, then the Gemara brings the pasuk Zois HaTorah Adam ki yamas ba'ayel. What's the source? Adam ki yamas ba'ayel. So it's the pasuk that really doesn't have. This is the Torah. A person who dies in a tent. Why is it emphasizing this is the Torah? Whereas expounding that it means this is how you absorb Torah. How do you? How can you absorb Torah? Rashi explains that it was surprising. This is the Torah. A person dies in a tent. What does that mean? That's what we find. What is that verse referring to? So according to this explanation, and it basically means that this is the way to absorb Torah. If you, so to speak, kill yourself in the tent, meaning you don't indulge in too many physical pleasures. Yes, Ben.
I must understand they developing that word hasket real nice with different ideas, but from the simple meaning, because it's followed by the word ushma, which is listen, the first word must mean something about listening. It doesn't say, let's say, it doesn't say tomorrow and listen. It has to say something about and listen.
How about haskes, make yourself crushed, ushma Yisrael, and you will listen. You will be able to understand.
Crushing has nothing to do with listening.
It does. The Gemara just said that if you're crushed, you will be able to be Shema Yisrael. You'll be able to absorb and understand the Torah. Only if you're crushed. And the word Shema, by the way,
without being crushed. I'm sorry.
Well, because you're not such a magushim. You normally are not indulging. But for all the rest of us that indulge, we need to crush ourselves a little to absorb the Torah. And maybe...
But why don't they apply the law of smicha here? That it's samuch. The two words are next to each other.
Okay.
There is that law too, right?
It does. That the simple meaning is haskes, pay attention, ushma Yisrael. And listen, that's the simple meaning.
Yeah, be quiet.
That's the simple meaning.
Listen, yeah.
That's a simple meaning. But there's also a deeper.
Yeah, they can be 10 deeper explanation.
reason-
I understand that, but we must also mention that the simple meaning is quiet down and listen. You know.
The thing is that it could be that the reason why it says, why the Gemara is darshaning this word, why is the Gemara expounding on this word, is for two reasons, two things. Number one, it's not a normal word,
Right.
not a regular word.
It seems to be a combination.
And number two, why does it have to even say whatever it means? Why does it have to say that word? Let it just skip it and do Shema Yisrael. If it means pay attention, it is a little surprising. And the Chumash has to tell us that Moshe said first, pay attention and listen. It's not like that important. Why would Moshe even say it? Pay attention and listen. They just say, listen up, everyone. You know, it seems a little superfluous. So that's that would seem to be a reason why the Gemara is expounding on it.
Okay. When they say Hayom hazeh nihiyeta le'am, I wonder if it was exactly on the day that they were giving the Torah, 40 years later, but the same day.
So what do you mean giving the Torah if the Torah was given already? You mean when Moshe taught the entire Torah to the Jewish people and he wrote it down and he handed it to them?
Right. This day you got the Torah. Maybe this day of the year you got the Torah.
So, but he says Nihiyes La'am. What's the pasuk?
Hayom hazeh nihiyeta
Yom hazeh
le'am.
nihiyes la'am l'Hashem Elokecha.
No, they stop only on they don't say the rest of the sentence.
You know, I have on the side, I have the whole pasuk.
Yeah, I know.
It says, "Vayidaber Moshe v'Kohanim halvim al kol Yisrael leimar." They spoke to all of Klal Yisrael, saying, "Haskes to Shema Yisrael, listen and hear Israel. Hayom hazeh nihiyes la'am l'Hashem Elokecha. Today you have become a nation to Hashem, your God." That's the entire pasuk.
So just from the simple meaning, I'm saying it could be the same day of the year. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but
so when the Gemara darshaned the idea, when it expounded it to mean that Torah should be cherished by you, that it's saying Hayom hazeh nihiyes la'am, as if the Torah was given to Klal Yisrael. So there is a Vilna Gaon over there does say that it actually was the day that Moshe reviewed the whole Torah to Klal Yisrael. So it's as if they got the whole Torah. So it's along the same lines as what you're saying.
Right.
There is such a insight, connects it with the Gemara and Saita that basically implies that that's what it's referring, that it's referring to that day. So the general laws and the particular laws it mentions over there, you know. So it's.
I thought one of the explanations should be that, you know.
So it does seem to be fitting. So it's not exactly the idea of handing the Torah to them. It's but at least it's teaching. So that's along the same lines as what you're saying. Yeah, very, very nice. Good thinking. So this point of the Gemara, which the way I translated it is that a person shouldn't indulge in his like physical pleasures. The truth of the matter is, there really is a Mishnah that says that in Pirkei Avos. Kachi darka shel Torah. It says this is the way of Torah. Pas b'melach toichal, umayim b'masura tishte, imata oisa kein ashrecha b'toivlach. So it says in Pirkei Avos that a person wants to succeed in Torah. You can't like indulge if you go. You're constantly indulging in this pleasure and that pleasure. That's not the way of Torah. That's not how you're going to absorb Torah. and you have to sort of suffer a little, and then that's how you really absorb Torah. So the question is, seems like that's already a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Why would our Gemara be saying that that's that this is mentioned over here? Why is it saying it like a new teaching? It sounds like it's something different. Like our Gemara is teaching us something else. So one of the explanations is that here we're talking about spiritual suffering, like the Gemara will give an example, and this would be the meaning of our Gemara. The place in Pirkei Avos, it talks about more materialistic matters. Here we're talking a little more about spiritual things, that you have to handle certain type of suffering in order to absorb the Torah. And so according to that explanation, it doesn't really mean not to indulge, but it means that a person has to sort of refine himself to absorb the Torah. You have to be more refined and control oneself's nature and emotions and traits, character, and channel it properly. So the Gemara continues, and it says, Davar Acher, another explanation, Haskes u'Shma Yisrael. It says Haskes and Shema Yisrael. And again, we've been expounding on what this word Haskes really means. And so the Gemara now says Haskes again means Has, which means silence. But what is the final two letters mean? Case or Kas. So it means silence and kates, and afterwards you should grind. Now, what is this? How is this different than the previous Gemara that said you should grind yourself and pain yourself over Torah? So in this, here we're explaining it differently. That means that you should grind over it, means to grind your brain over the Torah, that first you have to learn, and then you should ask questions, and then you should delve deeper into it. Kidder Rava, like Rava says, the Amar Rava, like that Rava said, La'olam yilmaid adam Torah, person always should learn Torah first. V'yachar kach yega, and afterwards he should delve deeper into it. That the proper way to learn is to study Torah more like a surface level, just simple, try to just get, cover the ground. And afterwards, you can delve deeper into it. Why is that? So Rashi explains that first be quiet and listen to your lesson until it's very clear. And even though things might not be so comfortable for you, in other words, you might have some questions, nevertheless, afterwards, you can chew it over and ask your questions, and you will answers until it is pleasant, until it is misyashev lach, until it's what would be a good word? What?
Settled.
Settled. Yeah, maybe that's a good word. Until it settles in you. That's a good word. Thanks. Until it's you're satisfied with it. And Rashi in Avodah Zarah, this Gemara is also mentioned in another place. Rashi over there says that he gives 2 points. One is that your Rebbe is teaching. When your Rebbe is teaching, don't start asking all the questions. Let him teach, listen up, and this way you will hear everything that he wants to say, and then you'll be able to, later on, you'll be able to understand it and absorb it and understand it. And he gives one more point that that he says that after you learn a lot, it will become understood. You will answer yourself the questions. In other words, sometimes something's going to be answered later. So if you try to ask every little question that you can right in the beginning, you're not allowing yourself to absorb it. I might say it. If you learn a little more, you'll be able to get the answers later. So this is Rashi and Avodah Zarah on page 19. Rashi says this. He says, "Ya'ayin b'talmudai l'damis milsa l'milsa l'hakshus l'taretz uvrishayna l'yasakim." So I'm sorry. Yilmad Adam Meirabba. A person should learn from his Rebbe until I should take girsas a Talmud and Perusha Shgula until you have the wording of the Talmud very clear in your mouth, and afterwards you try to compare things and ask questions, but don't do that in the beginning because maybe you will lose time and you won't be able to. The rabbi won't be available. It's not going to be available all the time. So grab whatever you can from him, and after you learn a lot, it'll be you'll be able to. It'll be settled, and again, you might be able to answer your own questions as well. So these are this is what the Gemara is saying based on this haskes, the word haskes. That's the trick of how you learn Torah, is to do it in that order. Then now the Gemara says that the Gemara continues and says, Amar Devei Reb Yanai. So the Beis Medrash of Reb Yanai said as follows: My dechsiv. What does it mean in this verse? This is a verse from Mishlei, Proverbs, and the verse, it's right before the Eishes Chayil, the chapter before it. It says over here, for the squeezing of milk produces butter, the squeezing of the nose produces blood, and the squeezing of anger produces strife. What does that verse mean? Very cryptic, poetic. The squeezing of milk produces butter. So the Gemara seems to be bringing up this idea that maybe we touched upon before about how a person has to really exert themselves and overlook certain matters in order to be able to absorb the Torah. What is that? So the Gemara explains, Kimitz chalav yoitzi chema. From the squeezing of milk, you will get butter. From the squeezing of mitzaf, squeezing of the nose, you produce blood, and from the squeezing of mitzapayim, squeezing of the anger, yotzi riv, you will get arguments or disputes. So it says, where do you find the butter of Torah? It's referring to Torah. It's only in someone who's able to spit out the milk that he nursed from his mother's breasts. So, b'misha meiki chalav sheyonak mishadei imay aleha, one who is able to spit out the milk that he nursed from the breasts of his mother on the Torah, that's someone who's going to be able to have the butter of Torah. So the way to read the verse now would be Ki mitz chalav yotzi, if he's able to let go of the milk that he sucked, it will cause him to have chema, butter. And then the Gemara says, what that basically means is that he's willing to forego on things in order to absorb the Torah. Now, interesting, chema, butter, one of the commentaries says, the Eitz Yosef says that it refers to halacha. Halacha of Torah is called the butter of Torah. Interesting.
So maybe they mean if you invest your mother's juices or milk, you will get the butter of the Torah.
And what does that mean, to invest your mother's milk?
In other words, all your energy, everything you have in you.
Right. Right. It uses a different term, but yeah, it does mean you put all your energy into it. It sounds like you're willing to let go of the milk, like spit it out. Makey means to like vomit, right? To spit out the chalav sheyonat. That if you're willing to put everything into
Right.
learning, in other words, you're foregoing on other matters because you want to have the Torah, so you will get the butter of Torah. Then the Gemara expounds on the next part of the verse. Mitzaf yotzi dam, squeezing, literally means a squeezing of the nose, but it could also mean squeezing of anger. Af could mean the same as apayim or af. Both of them could mean anger. So our Gemara is darshaning it to mean anger. Again, the simple meaning of the verse does mean the nose, but the Gemara says, "Mitzi af yotzi dam," it'll cause blood. That refers to kol talmud shekayis olav rabbi pam rishayna v'shaysek, any student that his rebbe gets angry at him once, and the student is quiet. Zoicha lahavchin bein dam tameh ledam tahor. He will merit to be able to differentiate between blood that is tameh, impure, and blood that is pure. This is a somewhat complicated rules with the laws of Tumah, especially it has to do with a dam nida, the blood of a woman, the menstrual blood. There's only certain colors that are tameh and certain colors are not tameh, and this is basically someone will merit to be able to do that if they are able to have the humility that when their teacher gets angry at them once and they're quiet, the first time. Pam Rishayna, interesting. It says when he remains silent, when he becomes angry at him the first time, then he has this merit. He will have this merit of being able to differentiate between pure blood and non-pure blood, right? Pure blood and impure blood. Yes, Mordechai.
Yeah, the part of the pasuk where, the part of the teaching where it was talking about the butter, I had learned that with a non-kosher animal, if you try to turn its milk into butter, you get something close, but you can still see droplets of milk. In other words,
it doesn't work.
Right, it doesn't work, and that's why those who permit chalav stam are more lenient with that.
Butter.
Right.
So how could we connect that here? How do we how could we include that idea over here? So we're mentioning that if you spit out the blood, the milk, you can you get the butter, and you're saying there is a interesting thing that all milk, not all milk can turn into butter. Only certain milk will turn into butter. Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know how it would work. Did they ever try making butter from human milk?
You need fat in the milk to
There's a
get
lot of
butter.
fat
Yeah.
in human milk. There's a lot of fat.
No, but I'm just saying, to get
Cream, a
butter,
lot of
you
cream.
need fat in the milk. You can't use
get
milk
butter.
that does not have fat in it.
Fat. So anyway, okay. Anyway, thanks for bringing it up, Mordechai. I'm not sure how to connect it really, but good point. Zev, did you want to say something? I see your hand is up. Zev, I guess not. Okay. So I was thinking about this. He becomes angry at him the first time. So so if a person does that, he's able to handle it, not get and not answer back. He's shoisef. That's the main thing, that to be quiet. You merit to be able to distinguish these two bloods. Then it says mitzapayim yotzi riv, the squeezing of apayim, which is double anger. So then you're going to be able to learn monetary laws, and this is the continuation of that previous point, which was there you were able to be quiet from the first time, and here you're a student that your Rebbe got angry with you the first time and the second time, and still you're quiet. Then you merit to distinguish, to discern between monetary laws and dinei nefashos. And different commentaries explain what this means. One explanation is that it refers to sometimes you have a case that involves both monetary laws and capital punishment laws cases. Sometimes you have a case that includes both, and it's important to know how the laws fit together. Because sometimes you'll think there's sometimes that regarding the capital case, we look at it this way. Regarding monetary case, we look at it differently. So not always will a person remember that there is that differentiation, and they might, it could easily make a mistake. So a person who was able to, remain silent when their Rebbe gets angry at them more than once, that is I guess it's a good sign that they will be able to have the patience to judge between these two, in such cases. Instead of rushing to make a judgment, you will be patient enough to be able to differentiate, know where to draw the line, that this is regarding these laws and that's regarding those laws. Another understanding is based on the continuation of the Gemara, where it says Ditnan, as we learned in a Mishnah. Rabbi Yishmael says, a person who wants to become wise, he should involve himself with monetary laws. There is no area but Torah of the in the Torah Yoser Mehem that's more than them regarding Shein Kamayim Noiveya, that they are like a wellspring that is Noiveya, it's shooting forth, it's flowing, a shooting forth wellspring. And what that means is that monetary laws are even more difficult than capital punishment. Sounds surprising, but that's the way it is. Monetary laws, a lot of times you have to compare cases because it doesn't really have clear regular case that it could that could say in the Shulchan Aruch that it could give. Everything is trying to compare, but you have to compare it to this, but then you could compare it to something else. You have to know so much, and you have to be very clear, have such clarity to be able to discern which case is it more similar to, and in what way is it similar to each thing, and how to draw conclusions and adapt laws from other cases and connect it with monetary laws. Someone here in the North Miami Beach came up to me and says, it would be nice if one of the rabbis here would maybe learn monetary laws so we could have like a real Bezdin, So I told him that, if a rabbi of a shul comes and learns monetary laws, I definitely would not want to use him as my rabbi for any lawsuit, because it's very complicated, monetary laws. Let them, if they maybe studied it for 25 years, and they spent all their time studying monetary laws, fine. But the rabbi of a shul that's going to study, his hour a day of monetary laws, not exactly running to him to do they're much more complicated than you can think. It's not just looking something up. This is the law here, this is the law there. It's a complicated thing. At least that's what our Gemara says. That it's if you want to be wise, you need someone very wise, and you have to constantly, like a wellspring that's shooting forth, that you got to come up with new, adapt things to connect the see similarities. So it's not a small position, and it's a sign of great wisdom. You want to be wise, occupy yourself with monetary laws, and so that would be the meaning of the previous Gemara, that you will zoicha lahavchin bein dinei mamanois dinei nefashos, that if a person is quiet and is able to have that patience, we will be able to merit to know how to judge in cases of monetary laws and in cases of capital cases. Or the way the question is, why does it say it? Why does it say it to discern between these two cases? And so the first answer was that sometimes you have cases that have both laws in them, and you have to know when to apply each law. But another way of explaining it is that the greatness, you will merit to understand the depth that a person needs for monetary laws over capital laws. So that's what it means to discern between these two, that you would know the difference. You would realize the complications that monetary laws involve. And now the Gemara continues and says, Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani. Shmuel bar Nachmani says, "My dechsiv." What does it mean? And this is also a verse right next to the other verse from Proverbs. And it says, the simple translation is that im novalta behisnase, if you have been abused, you should remain aloof. V'im zamoisa, and if you have thoughts of, which would mean thoughts maybe to take revenge, yad lapeh, you should put your hand to your mouth. So that's the advice of Proverbs. So what does that pasuk mean? So the Gemara expounds on it, saying that it refers to Torah. Im navalta b'hisnase v'im zamoisa yad lapeh. It means kol hamanabel atzmai al divrei Torah, anyone that allows himself to be abused for divrei Torah, for studying Torah, which means that he asks questions, even though they might not be the smartest question, and other people might make fun of him. He's manabel atzmai. He embarrasses himself for divrei Torah. Soifai lehisnase, he will be exalted. V'im zamam, and if he muzzles his mouth, yad lepeh, his hand will be on his mouth whenever anyone asks him a question, he will not be able to answer properly. So this is, again, this idea of allowing yourself to be humiliated in order to absorb Torah. So this seems to be the continuation of these few Gemaras. The Gemara started with the haskes, meaning you should grind yourself for divrei Torah because you have to kill yourself, so to speak, over divrei Torah. And the one way of understanding that was allowing yourself to be humiliated in order to learn Torah. And then it gave this story of the Beis Medrash, expounding on from the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yanai, that your Rebbe gets angry at you and you're quiet, you merit high levels of learning Torah. And then the Gemara continues with this other pasuk that also seems to emphasize this idea that you menabel yourself al divrei Torah, that by asking questions that might humiliate you, nevertheless, that is how you become exalted. And if you muzzle yourself, then you will end up having your hand placed over your mouth, and you won't be able to answer people because you never asked questions, which seems to be practical. You didn't ask your Rebbe questions. How are you going to know how to answer people? How are you going to know the end? You yourself never really got clarity because you never really asked the questions that bothered you. So you're not going to be able to have answers when people ask you questions. And then the Gemara now continues, and it says, Pasach Reb Nechemya. Reb Nechemya now gave his introduction when he gave his speech when he came to Yavne, Kerem b'Yavne, the vineyard, the yeshiva. The Kerem is really, we said it means the yeshiva, the tables were set up like a vineyard. So that's how it's called, the Kerem b'Yavne. So what was his speech? So he started b'choid asanya, to give honor to the hosts, v'darash and darshan, my dechsiv, what does it mean in the pasuk? By Yomer Shol, now we get to remember some of the things we've learned in the afternoon. We have the stories of Shaul over here. By Yomer Shol Elakeni, here in the book of Shmuel, it talks about the story where Shaul, King Saul, was going to fight a war, and he tells the Keni, Sluchu Suru Redu Mitoich Amaleki, you should move away from the Amalek. I'm about to fight Amalek over here. If you stay where you are, I might destroy you with Amalek. So and you did kindness with all of the Bnei Yisrael. So I would like to give you advance notice that you should move away so you won't get caught in the middle of the crossfire. Now, the Gemara continues and says, that there's really a priori argument over here to prove this. It's really surprising here. Yisro really invited Moshe, so to speak, for his own honor. It was considered an honor to Yisro that Moshe should participate. And basically, the way the Gemara is understanding this story is when Yisro came to to the Jewish people in their camp and in the desert. So Yisrael made a meal over there. He sponsored a meal, and he invited Moshe, and he gave everyone. Of course, he invited everyone, but he included Moshe. Now Yisrael, of course, is his son-in-law. Now Yisrael, it says like Kislev Moshe. Why did he include Moshe? He was it was great honor for him that Moshe would come to his meal. So, but nevertheless, the Klal Yisrael later on in the days of Shaul, they told the Keni, which is the grandchildren of Yisrael, you people did a big chesed, a big kindness with the Yisrael, and therefore we are going to do kindness with you. So what does this mean? So Shalai Kirv es Moshe el l'chvod atzmo. He honored Moshe for his own benefit, to honor himself. Nevertheless, we want to repay him. So el l'chvod atzmo kach. This is what we did. It's in other words, this is considered that he did a kindness with all of Klal Yisrael. For sure, this should apply if a person is a host to a scholar and gives him to eat and helps him, benefits him. For sure, it will be considered that he did a kindness with all of Klal Yisrael. So it is a little interesting because the verses over there in the story of Yisrael, it does say that he brought sacrifices and everyone ate together. So it sounds like Yisrael gave lechol lechem and chaysin Moshe, that it says vayavai Aaron choziknei Yisrael lechol lechem and chaysin Moshe lefnei olikim. It sounds like they all joined together. So nevertheless, we're considering it like it was for Moshe, and at least that's the simple understanding here, that's what we're referring to according to the way Rashi learns, that we're referring to when Yisrael came to the Jewish people in the desert, and the fact that he included Moshe, which he did for his own honor, nevertheless, we still wanted to pay back his grandchildren. The other way of learning it, which seems to be a little smoother, is that what happened when Moshe came to Midian. He was running away from Egypt. He came to Midian. What did they do? He saved Yisrael's daughters from being harassed from the other shepherds. So he saved Yisrael's daughters from being harassed. Yisrael said, "Va'ayoy, where is he? Why did you leave him?" He told his daughters that there's some Egyptian man saved you. Why didn't you invite him in? So invite him in. So he invited him in. He gave him to eat, and then of course he gave him his daughter. Now, why the fact that he invited him to give him food, that was a deserving of a reward for generations later. So for sure, if someone hosts a scholar in his house and benefits him, gives him food and so on, for how much more so, it's considered like he did kindness with all of Klal Yisrael. And in other words, Shaul uses that term. You did kindness with Kol B'nai Yisrael, with all the elders, with all the Jewish people. So he uses that term, kindness, with all the Jewish people, even though he only did it with one, because that's considered like you did it with, you deserve a reward for doing it with everyone. And if that applied to Moshe, and gets that we consider it a kindness with all of Klal Yisrael. So how much more so if you do a kindness to a Talmud Chacham, so for sure it's considered like you did. You did. Why is it considered more? Here he did something with Moshe. Why is it considered that? Why should, if you give a scholar food and drink, why is it considered even how much more so for sure, considered like you did a kindness with all of Klal Yisrael. Why would that be? Maybe it's the same, maybe it's less. Moshe is great. Moshe was not like a Talmud Chacham. You could ask a good question. Maybe why would it be more? So it would seem that here it's saying that, but with Moshe he just gave him food. Here you're giving him machiloi mashkeu mahaneu minachasav. If you're giving him from your from your possessions, how much more so it's considered that you did a kindness with all of Klal Yisrael. The next Gemara says, Pasach Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi opened his speech. He gave his speech as an opener to the returning to Yavne. So again, we just said Reb Nechemiah's B'chvoid Achsanya. He was emphasizing how wonderful it is to be a host to the scholars of Yavne. That's what he was emphasizing here. And now Rabbi Yossi is also he talks about opening B'chvoid Achsanya, the fact that you're hosting all the these rabbis here. So he's wants to give them some praise. V'darash, and he darshan this follows: Lo yisasayev adoimei ki achichahu. Don't harass an Edomite because he's your brother. Lo yisasayev Mitzri. Don't harass an Egyptian. Ki ger hayisa b'arza. You were a stranger in his land. What does that mean? That you were a stranger in his land, and he let you live there. That refers to when Yaakov came down to Egypt, the time of the famine. So the Egyptians allowed us a place to live. So we owe them some element of appreciation. Behold, this is a priori argument that the Egyptians, they care about their chvayid atzmai. They cared about themselves because we find shenemar, as it says, "Bim yodatav yesh bam anshe chayil." If you know that they have anshe chayil, people of might, the samtum sare mikna ala shali. You can put them as sare mikna. You can put them as leaders on my soldiers. So what does this mean? That Paroi was expecting on my flock. Put them as shepherds on my flock. So Paroi was expecting that he's going to benefit from having them come there. Yosef is such a talented guy. Imagine his brothers must also be talented. This sounds good. So so this is what you get for that we give, that we're not allowed to ever harass an Egyptian because we were allowed to stay in his land. He only invited us to stay there because for his own benefit. So how much more so how much more so if Hamareach Talmud Chacham, person who gives, who's a hosts a Talmud Chacham, scholar, that's kind of a comma, how much more so? Which sounds like maybe this is the meaning of the previous Gemara. The emphasis is that Yisrael did it for his own honor. How much more so if you don't do it for your own honor? That's what it seems. That's the meaning of these two Gemaras. That Yisrael did it for his own honor. Paroi did it for his own honor, for his own benefit, and you are hosting them, and you're not really doing it for your own benefit. You're doing it simply to help them, and therefore, how much more so it's considered that you're helping all of Klal Yisrael, and or how much more so in this case, how much more so you should show him respect. You should be makir toiv, to just like we're makir toiv, we show gratitude to the Egyptians. So we also should show gratitude to you who was Maichel and Mashka a Talmud Chacham without expecting, without doing it for your own desire. So now Rabbi Eliezer, son of Rabbi Yisrael Glili, he gave his speech. The Darash and he darshan. Hashem blessed. This also we learned. Hashem blessed Oved Edom ba'avor aroin ha'alakim. He was holding Oved Edom Hagiti ba'avor aroin ha'alakim because he had the ark of Hashem. It was in the base Oved Edom Hagiti. It was in the house of Oved Edom, who was from Gas, and Hashem blessed him as Oved Edom, as called Beisoy, it says. And he blessed him and his whole household. And behold, this is an a priori argument. Just like, what did he do for the ark? He put it in his house. What did he do exactly? He didn't give it to eat or drink. He made it swept up. Tibed rebates. He swept up and he washed the floor. That's basically all he did. And he gets blessed from Hashem. It's such a blessing. Does anyone remember what he was blessed with? Any of our we'll soon see. Hamareach Talmud Chacham so he got so blessed. Person who hosts a scholar in his house and gives him food and drink and lets him and benefits him from his possessions, for sure, much more so. Kama should be blessed from Hashem. What is bracha shabercha Hashem? What is this bracha that Hashem blessed him? Shabercha, mahi bracha shabercha. So it says, Amar Rabbi Yehuda bar Zvida zu chamois u'shmeina kalasah. This is the mother-in-law and her 8 daughter-in-laws. Sheyoldu shisha bekeres echod. That they each gave birth to 6 children in one pregnancy. And they had, all of a sudden, he had an extra, what does it say? It says how much he had. Shishim ushnayim, right? He had 62 children from this. Because in other words, his wife gave birth to 6, his 8 daughter-in-laws gave birth to 6. So altogether, if you include the sons and the grandchildren, how many people in his family, how many kids did he have? 62. Well, let's see it in the pasuk. Shenemar, as it says, that Pu'ulsai Hashmine Kiberchoi Elikim. And Hashem blessed him. And this is a pasuk in Divrei Hayamim that his 8 children gave birth. Hashem blessed them with multiple births. Now, as it says, Kol Eila Mibnei Oved Edom Hema. These are all the children of Oved Edom. Uvneihem be'achayim ish chayil b'koyach la'avoida shishim ushnayim la'oved Edom. There were 62 to Oved Edom. How is that? Because his 8 children, he had another how does it calculate? 6 children, six that his wife had. The 8 children times 6 times 8 is 48. 48 plus 8, because the 8 children themselves is 56, and then another 6 is 62. So you have altogether 62 children. All right, I guess time is up. Okay, so Mitzvah Hashem, hopefully maybe we'll conclude tomorrow the Masechta. We'll have a siyum. Make sure to bring some l'chaim to your table.